Welcome back to Two Keto Dudes. This is Carl Franklin from Connecticut in the United States. And in February of 2016, I put myself on a ketogenic diet to take control of my metabolism. In just 2.5 months, I managed to reverse all my markers of type 2 diabetes with diet alone. As of now, I'm 80 pounds lighter with no signs of diabetes or heart disease.
Hi, I'm Richard Morris in Canberra, Australia, although today I'm actually in New London, Connecticut.
Yeah.
I've been on a ketogenic diet since April of 2014. When I started, I was very sick with complications from type 2 diabetes. Within 6 months of starting a ketogenic diet, all of my biomarkers of disease had disappeared. I've lost just shy of 100 pounds, and I've completely turned my health around.
And this show is a document of my progress through ketosis and Richard's experience thriving for years in ketosis. And hopefully that might help a few people who are curious about this kind of dietary hacking.
Yeah, we're not doctors. We don't want to give anyone any medical advice.
Nope.
But we are keen to share our own experiences. We're actually both software developers, so we're not afraid of a little technical detail, are we, Carl?
No!
We've done some research into our own deranged metabolisms and the science behind them, and we hope to share some of that research. Where possible, we intend to put links in the show notes to cite research supporting any claims that we make.
And you'll probably work out pretty quickly that we're both foodies.
Oh, yeah.
We love to cook and we love to eat. And every episode, we both share a keto recipe that cannot be ignored.
Negative ghostwriter, the pattern is full.
So, Richard, let's start podcast number 90, Impulsive Keto, Karen Ogilvie's keto success story.
We're justified and we don't need no alibi.
90 podcasts. Wow.
It's amazing.
I know. What a ride. It's all been fun.
It's getting more and more surreal every day. Well, do we have any apologies or corrections from last week's show, Richard?
No, last week's show was Keto for Beginners, and I got to admit that's one of my favorite shows to have recorded.
Yeah, I mean, we basically want everybody to share that with loved ones and friends and people who don't know anything about keto. That's what's great about this episode is we didn't do any shtick, none of the Carl and Richard stuff that we're doing now. We just got to basic explanations of what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let's revisit what a ketogenic diet is. It's, for us anyway, it's less than 20 grams of carbs per day, mostly from green leafy vegetables and nuts.
Yep.
And protein scales with our lean body mass.
Sure.
We go by 1 to 1.5 grams of protein for every kilogram of lean body mass that you have.
But we get all of our energy from fat.
Fat. That's right. Either the fat that's on your plate or the fat on your body from that Krispy Kreme that you ate a decade ago.
Right.
Buddy, how was your week?
My week was with you. So it was awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah, so this week we were in Toronto yesterday.
Yeah.
We went up to have dinner with Jason Fung and Megan Ramos and Angel Ramos.
And Karen Ogilvie joined us.
Karen Ogilvie. And we went on what I'm calling the Keto Dudes Churrascaria World Tour.
Yes.
So this is a Brazilian steakhouse where they bring out meat on swords.
Yes. And they say, would you like some of this? And we say, oh, yes, definitely.
Yes.
Pass the salt. More fat.
More
Thank
fat.
you. Yeah.
And they don't stop until you say uncle.
Yeah. You say, oh, my God. Are you sure you want some? What did they have? They had prime rib with cheese injected in it. Yes.
That's insane.
That's crazy.
And delicious.
It was really good.
It was. Yeah. The other thing I've found in Toronto was a new kind of coffee.
Yeah.
And this is from Starbucks.
Yep.
And this is what happened was normally when I go to Starbucks, I get like a Venti Americano iced coffee. And it's a lot of liquid. And this time I didn't want a lot of liquid. I just wanted a lot of caffeination. So I asked for a double shot. In Starbucks, they call it a doppio. But what I asked for was a double shot macchiato. Now, macchiato is normally where they start off with a shot of coffee or a shot of espresso, and they get the milk foam with just a teaspoon of milk foam, and they just put a little mark of milk foam on the top of the espresso.
Right.
Macchiato just means marked. And as she was pouring the coffee, I said, wait a minute, is it possible to use heavy cream instead of milk? And she said, sure, why not? So
Steamed heavy cream.
Steamed heavy cream.
Oh, man.
And instead of just putting a mark of cream on there, she put several tablespoons of
Was
cream
she
in
like,
there.
this is going to be great.
This is going to be great. You're
go
going
to
to love
hospital.
this. And I was wired for the rest of the day.
Funny.
So, yeah, that's my new favourite cup of coffee. So what else we've been doing? We've been looking at venues and getting ready for Keto Fest 2018.
Yeah, we're starting.
Yeah, we've got a new venue too, which will
We
be
do.
very interesting. We'll be talking about that a little bit closer to the event.
Yep.
We also filmed our Kickstarter video,
Yeah.
and that will be released pretty soon.
Yep.
And then in celebration, after all of this hard work, we have been working very hard. We had cigars, and that's
We
why
did.
I have sexy cigar voice.
We had some Cubanos that we picked up in Toronto on the way home.
Naughty
Yeah.
boy.
Yeah, well, that's the way it goes.
Yeah, so that was my week. How was your week, Carl?
Well, my week was great. As a matter of fact, all those things that you said I participated in. But also, I had a good time editing these new podcasts with Jason Fung and Megan Ramos,
Right,
which is
yeah.
the Obesity Code podcast.
Mm.
So for those who don't know, we have a new sort of foundation called 2 Keto LLC.
Yep.
And the purpose of it is to create more podcasts and more content and more video. And we have a Patreon that supports it. And one of the big podcasts that we're doing here is the Obesity Code podcast. So
Sure.
I've been editing that, and we featured the first episode on 2 Keto Dudes.
Yep.
The second episode, guys, even better than the first.
Right.
You got to go check out the second episode.
Yeah.
Because we learned, we got some of your feedback. Yeah, some of the music was too long, whatever. And but the audio quality is better. Everything's better about the second episode. The story is just as good. And then the third episode, which we edited this week, is questions for IDMs. So Jason and Megan answer questions from the populace.
Yeah.
And the focus is on insulin resistance.
And we were both involved with that. We asked the questions.
Yeah, we asked for questions in our forum. We got some good questions. And we actually had a couple questions of our own, and Jason and Megan answered them. It was great.
Yeah, we've got to thank our Patreons, because without them, we wouldn't be able to extend our network beyond just one podcast.
Yep.
So thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much. And this is the point of our show where we give away some swag.
Loot!
Booty! And this time we're giving away 2 Keto Dudes coffee mugs with our mugs on them that say keep calm and keto on.
A mug with our mugs on it. Nice.
And it's good advice, right?
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
Especially when people get at their initial weight loss, they get into a stall and they're
Yeah.
like, oh, this stuff doesn't work. No,
Yeah.
keep calm
And keto
on. That's what
Yeah.
we're saying. Well, anyway, Richard, today's winner is, wait for it,
I'm waiting.
wait for it,
I'm still waiting.
John Harmon.
Well done, John.
Golf clap for you. And John Harmon wins a 2 Keto Dudes coffee mug just for being a member of the 2 Keto Dudes fan club. And you can sign up. Go to fanclub.2keto.com, answer 3 or 4 easy questions, and you'll be in our database. And every week we pick somebody at random from that database to win a mug.
And you could win the lottery.
That's right.
Or if you can't wait for the lottery, you can always go to gear.2keto.com and buy them.
Easy peasy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that brings us to a little segment we always do called... Oh, man, you went low on
I
me
went
that time.
Yeah, I've got the cigar voice.
Yes. The Barry White voice.
Oh, yeah.
Gingivitis. All right. Well, anyway, I'll go first. This was a simple message on Facebook from Tao Lei. And Tao says, Richard and Carl, you need to bring Karen Ogilvie on your podcast because I love her laugh. No, I'm sorry. We can't do that. Sorry. Sorry, no.
No, we're not going to bring her on our podcast.
Nope, I'm sorry. That's out of the question. Actually, she's on our show today.
She is. So my mail today is from Christina Rose on the Ketogenic forums, and she asks, what happens if you eat too much fat on a keto diet in one day?
Oh.
I'm new to keto, and I ate lots of fat bombs, which I will never do again. I went like 40 to 50 grams of fat over that day. I've been eating less fat since yesterday to make up for it. Is that okay? How do I recover this or to balance it out? And there's been a couple of interesting comments there. Tom said, if you felt totally miserable, you probably ate too much fat. It's a learning experience, but this too shall pass. Like everything else, just learn from it and enjoy the journey. Tom goes on to say, keep in mind that most of us start eating this way because our goal is to lose weight. What we usually mean is that we want to lose body fat in all the right places, but this really isn't what we really want, and we don't know it yet. The body gets fat as a mechanism to protect it from damage that's happening to our body from things like diet, genetics, environment, etc. And the body develops these fat stores to protect us and to help us to survive the stress and the trauma. Our goal really should be to get healthy, to reduce inflammation from the stressors in the body, etc., and that will lead to the loss of fat being stored in all of the right places. So eating dietary fat is a good way of lowering inflammation, especially if the source of some of that inflammation was in the food that you were previously eating. So just keep up the good work. And somebody else made a comment. This is Jason Fletcher, who says, in this case, I would suggest eating real foods and foods that are more satiating, even though I don't agree with eating to satiation. Binging on fat bombs will not lead to healthy eating habits or a positive mental mindset. And they're not satiating. Will you gain weight from overeating fat? It depends on how efficient your body is at digesting and using fat and what kind of fat you are using. Most people who start keto are not metabolically healthy, and they burn a lot of energy and do not have the capacity to digest large amounts of fat. As time goes on, the body will be able to use and even store the fat. Now, as far as fats, MCTs and LCFs are basically short and long-chain fatty acids. MCTs will in general not be able to be stored by the body as long chains will. Now, I disagree with some of the things that Jason said, and I'll go backwards. MCTs, yes, MCTs can't be stored. You're going to burn them immediately. They're treated in an entirely different way from long-chain fats. Short and medium-chain fats will go straight to the liver. Long-chain fats go everywhere but the liver first, and mainly go into fat, into adipose tissue. So medium-chain triglycerides, if you eat a bulletproof coffee with coconut oil in it, that's medium-chain triglycerides, you're not going to put those into your body fat. You're going to be basically using those for energy. And if you have too much for energy, then you will eventually turn it into body fat and store it.
Yeah, that's the way it is.
That's the way it is. Now, some people can have up to 5,000 calories a day and still lose weight. Sam Feltham was a perfect example of that.
It depends on your metabolic rate.
It does.
How much body fat you're burning.
It does. One of the things that we have said from the very get-go is eat fat to satiety.
Right.
You don't want to eat to satiety and then eat some more, because you will then have too much energy. Now, what you do with that is going to be different for every different person.
Yeah.
There was a guy in one of Ethan Sims' overfeeding studies who was unable to gain fat beyond 11% body fat increase he was eating 44,000 kilojoules per day. That's about 10,000 calories a day.
Good Lord.
And he wasn't gaining any fat.
That's crazy.
His metabolic rate just jacked up.
Yeah.
And so really, you really can't say from the outset how much energy a person is going to use.
Right.
The body really determines that. So this is really why Stephen Finney says satiety is key. You must let satiety determine whether you need to fuel or not. So, but as for the original question, look, if there shouldn't be a fat macro. There shouldn't be an amount of fat that you have to eat during the day. You eat till you're no longer full. It's not rocket science.
Another thing that I think about is when people make fat bombs, they're typically made with artificial sweeteners.
Yeah.
And some of those sweeteners can signal the brain into thinking, oh, that sweet stuff jack up insulin, even though the blood sugar isn't going up.
The cephalic response.
Yeah, it's exactly. And it's different with everybody. Some people can tolerate it more than others. But
that's right.
But if you're eating these things, well, guess what happens? Your insulin goes up, and then you're eating all this fat on top of that, and guess what? It doesn't get burned.
No, it won't get burned. It'll get stored. I guess the problem is that people just seem to have a moralistic view on overeating, and it's very difficult to shake that way of thinking. But if you eat too much one day, you'll eat less the next day.
Yeah.
Your body's not stupid. your satiety will hit earlier when you have excess energy. And if you don't have access to energy, you may be 200 pounds overweight. If you have high insulin and you don't have access to that energy,
You're starving.
you're starving all the time.
Yeah.
You need to get insulin down. So
Yeah.
anyway, I would say, don't worry, keep calm, keto on.
That's good advice, Richard. All right. So now we're going to go to a recording that we made yesterday
That's right.
in Toronto with Karen Ogilvie in a crappy hotel room somewhere near the airport. The audio isn't the greatest, but you'll get a great story out of it. So let's just roll that recording now.
Heard you say you're due for a little.
Well, we're sitting down in a Best Western in Mississauga, Toronto, right at the airport with Karen Ogilvie. And hi, Karen.
Hi, how are you, Carl?
It's just great. It was really fortuitous that you weren't that far away. We're here to see Dr. Fung, and you came over. So for those who don't know, Karen runs the Impulsive Keto Facebook group, right?
I do, yeah.
Also involved in the Hobbit cast and some other
The Impulsive Keto Cast.
Impulsive Keto
Yeah, the
cast.
Impulsive Keto Cast.
Formerly known as.
Yes, formerly known as the Hobbit Cast.
I see.
We're now Lord of the Rings free.
Okay. Was there a licensing thing or?
No, it was just the fellow that owned our YouTube channel. He was 5'1". And we were using his, but then he stepped back, so it made no sense to.
He didn't mind being called a hobbit at the time.
He called himself the Hobbit.
That's funny.
He called his cookbooks after the Hobbit.
And also, I guess with keto, second breakfast. I mean, you can eat breakfast all day long.
That's right. Yeah. So we changed the names because we were Hobbitless, and a lot of our members, especially in the food group, it really made no sense to have a second breakfast when they weren't even eating a first, or sometimes not even lunch.
I'm sorry. Can you explain the second breakfast thing for our listeners?
Right. We have another Facebook group that's devoted to food and recipes. So it's ketogenic diet, food and recipes, formerly called Keto Second Breakfast.
I gotcha.
And
So
the
they-
link there is from The Lord of the Rings, where the hobbits
Right.
referred to breakfast, 11 C's, and second breakfast.
Right.
But
Okay, now that we've explained the cultural references, let's talk keto.
Yes.
Yes. Last time we saw you was in New London, Connecticut at Keto Fest.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a great time there.
That was fun.
Loads of fun. I was there the whole weekend. I had a blast.
We've all been getting ready this week for Keto Fest 2018.
Yeah.
It'll be the weekend of July 21st, and we're planning some extra things that we didn't do last year, such as we're doing some fasting stuff on the couple of days beforehand.
Wonderful.
Or at least one day.
With Megan and Megan Ramos, and
Fantastic.
we're doing also cooking lessons. We're actually getting a chef who trains other chefs in to do cooking lessons for the week afterwards. So for those people, small batch cooking lessons. So for those people
Very
who hang
cool.
around after Keto Fest, there's that as well. So we're in the process of doing a Kickstarter again for it, and we hope to be twice the size. So it's going to be fun.
I think it will be, yeah.
So tell us about you and tell us what you've been doing and since Keto Fest and before that. What's your story?
For that. Well, I started off about a year and a half ago. I had been called into my doctor's office, and I was a little alarmed because she called me in after hours, and doctors typically don't want to work after hours, but I came in and she said I had to come in, and she pulled up her chair alongside me and she held my hand.
Oh,
And I thought all sorts of things.
not good.
And what she was trying to tell me was that my tests had come back and I'd come back pre-diabetic. But what was most alarming was that at 39, I was diagnosed with atrial fibrillation, AFib, a heart condition.
Yeah.
So with an A1C of 6.2,
Wow.
and the pre-diabetic, like just at the border.
Just barely.
This close to full-blown T2. And this heart condition, I was very much staring down the barrel at a stroke, possibly before I was 50. I was well over 300 pounds.
Wow.
And just in really, really bad shape. So the recommendation from my doctor was to get a referral to the weight loss surgery doctor in town.
Oh dear, bariatrics.
Bariatrics, yeah. So she said, he might not want you to have the surgery, but you might want to consider it. This is not good. This AFib that you have, normally you see that when you're in your 70s.
Right. Wow.
So, make the appointment and have a consultation and decide what you want to do from there. Now, I did a little research on weight loss surgery, and I didn't like the outcome. Oftentimes, it can be life-saving for so many people,
absolutely.
But there is a lot of risk. There is a lot of failure.
It's a general anesthetic, and every time you go under a general anesthetic, there's a chance you won't wake up.
Especially with my atrial fibrillation, too. I had done a sleep test. I was apneaed. So it was risky.
Probably had high blood pressure at the time as well.
I didn't. That's the thing about my atrial fibrillation, is that we did all kinds of tests. There are certain things that can be confounding factors for atrial fibrillation. They couldn't find anything. The only confounding factor that I had was obesity.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, so they just didn't know what was causing it. They just knew I was very large and in a bad.
And they probably told you that you're on the path for diabetes, and nobody comes back from it, right?
That's what she told me. She said, "Look, I don't know how long you have been pre-diabetic. I did have gestational diabetes 6 years before that.
I see.
As far as I knew, I think the last A1C I had was the year after I gave birth, so I don't think it came back pre-diabetic.
Do you know what it was?
They didn't call me back in. I had an old school doctor. He's a very
You're fine.
good.
You don't need to know.
Exactly. Whatever. I'll tell you if there's a problem. But I had this new doctor who's very caring and concerned. She said, you had this problem before when you were pregnant. All I know is this. If your A1C comes back pre-diabetic, the clock is ticking. I don't know when it started, she says, but I've never seen anyone 8 years past that pre-diabetes diagnosis that did not become a type 2 diabetic.
Wow.
It just doesn't happen.
There you go. Listen.
Spoiler alert.
Not without weight loss surgery. She says, not without weight loss surgery. The only people that I know that have not become type 2 diabetic after the diagnosis of prediabetes had weight loss surgery.
Got it.
That's known as the only corrective for type 2 diabetes is heroic surgery. Reroute your gut.
Yeah, it's interesting that one of our most successful episodes and most downloaded episodes was our weight loss surgery episode.
Yeah.
And that was very instructive.
We had 3 patients on. Yeah.
Yeah, and we went through all the different options, and it turns out the sleeve was the one that works the best. It worked the best for the people that were on.
Right.
Yeah, I'd seen many people with a sleeve, and the results, I don't know. I was worried. I was really worried. I was worried about the risk of going under.
Sure.
I was worried about that I would just, if I got the sleeve, I'd just eat through it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you don't get to over 300 pounds without having some relationship issues with the food.
Sure.
So
we all have that.
I thought about it. I sat on it for a while. I mulled it over, and I had to wait a while to get this referral. I live in Canada. You got to wait for specialists.
Sure.
I tried other things. I tried non-fat, vegan. I felt
been there.
Terrible. Yeah, I saw Forks Over Knives and thought, okay, I'm going to do this. And about 6 weeks in, I guess I ran out of my reserves of vitamins and minerals, and I just thought I was going to die. So I'm like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
And I did a couple of Whole30s. I did everything. I counted points.
Yeah.
That's Weight Watchers, right?
Weight Watchers,
Fat and fiber points,
exactly.
yeah.
That's
I
just
did that.
it's calories in, calories out. That's what it is, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
I did all these things while waiting, and I was hungry and angry, and I couldn't lose weight.
Whole30, that's sort of a low carbish thing, isn't it?
It is, but I ate the fruit. No, I ate the fruit. I love
Fruit's
that
good
fruit.
for you.
Oh yeah, but and not even berries. I liked the tropical
Bananas.
fruit,
Yeah.
pineapple. Oh yeah, all that good stuff. I love pineapple.
So you were sort of doing low carbish stuff, but just not quite leaning in enough, right?
I was pretty experienced with the low carb diet. Now, I had all these failures with different sorts of diets, except once. And then I started to think, The only time I didn't feel terrible while losing weight, the only time I didn't have orthostatic hypotension, the only time I felt like I had energy and that I wasn't getting sicker was when I had followed the Atkins program.
Yeah, me too.
It was about 16, 17 years ago that I did that. And I lost a lot of weight and I felt great.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so I lost like 60, 70 pounds, somewhere around that, doing that. I had gotten down just to about 200 pounds at that point. And I let my husband tell me that we still needed pizza. So we got pizza once.
Yeah,
that one night we got pizza.
And pizza.
Exactly. And then it was like the snowball down the side of the mountain. It was like, the next thing you know, we're eating Costco muffins the size of our head. And
I say the same thing about cigarette smoking. I gave up cigarette smoking and I'd successfully given it up for almost 4 months, and a friend bet me that I couldn't have just one. And I was smoking again for another 10 years. So,
oh, no.
Not some friend, huh?
Yeah, not for long. No longer a friend.
So my experience was that, not only was I cheating, but when I did Atkins, I felt like people were telling me I was going to hurt myself, and that was the crutch that I told myself that was my excuse to get off it, it
can't be right for you. It
can't be right for you. This can't be good, because people are telling you, what are you doing? You're going to kill yourself. You're going to have a heart attack, and you don't know.
Bacon, especially, when we were talking 15, 20 years ago, the science was there, but it wasn't as well known. It wasn't as thorough, right? I had done this before with a tremendous amount of success. So I decided to go online. And we didn't have that, 17 years ago. There weren't Facebook groups, right?
That's true.
So I think I researched Atkins induction. That's how I felt the best. When I did Atkins, I would do the cycles. You start off with induction, and then you start gradually increasing your carbohydrate.
Right.
But I never felt good when I did, so I always went back to induction. And
so did I, actually.
Yeah, I just stayed in induction for about 6 months and lost 70 pounds.
Yeah.
Me as well. I mean, 2004.
It's essentially ketogenic, unless you're not watching protein, but, it's essentially ketogenic.
I was a woman in my mid-20s, so I didn't eat that much protein.
Yeah.
Sure.
And, I didn't skimp on the fat either.
Yeah.
So I was basically following a ketogenic diet without knowing it. Anyway, I went on these Facebook groups and I searched, Atkins induction, and then I kept on seeing ketogenic diet, not finding much on Atkins anymore, just a lot of ketogenic diet. And I'm like, well, I know what ketosis is.
Yeah.
I read the book.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right. So I signed up to a recipe group, Second Breakfast, which is now ketogenic diet, food and recipes. And I signed up to what was called Open Discussion. It's now ketogenic diet, science, and support. And I was doing all right. I basically just wanted recipes. I knew everything, so there's nothing more I could learn. I just wanted some recipes and just talk to other people who were doing it, because I knew it all.
You knew it all.
Oh, yeah.
I've been doing Atkins for a decade. I'm fine.
I know what I'm doing.
Right.
But I got to the point a couple months in that my weight loss slowed. And I knew that unlike 15 years ago, I was insulin resistant.
Yep. And had become more insulin resistant.
Exactly.
Over that time,
very much so. With the prediabetes, that's a lot of insulin resistance. So my weight loss had slowed, and I was very frustrated because I was so used to, 2-3 pounds, no problem.
It comes off.
And it slowed down to like 1, maybe a half a pound a week.
It seems like we hear the same story over and over again. I mean, you lose a lot of weight at first, you feel great, and then your weight loss slows, and some people think, this isn't working, and give up. And But if you think
that wasn't exactly what was happening.
Well, no. I mean, some people do that. I did that, a couple of times. But this time, knowing what I know about what the changes that are actually happening slowly in my body,
we made Carl do a podcast. And he's a professional podcaster. He's been podcasting. I think he started 4 years before the term podcasting was actually invented.
2002, whatever that was.
So and so we made him do a podcast as a commitment device. Yeah. So that if he fell off the wagon, obviously people would see it on Facebook and say, "Hey, wait a minute, we heard you on the podcast."
That's right.
Turned out he loved it. He took to it like a duck to water.
Yeah.
And he just weight just flew off him.
But I've been in a stall for a year or so.
Yeah.
Sure.
And just not really caring all that much about it because I feel so great and I got energy. And,
and it'll just work through it.
And I'll just work through it when I do.
Yeah.
Well,
So anyway.
You know, that's when you were telling the story at Keto Fest about how you were using the podcasting as a compliance tool. I'm like, that's what my podcast partner did. He's tricky. He just is using this so I'll stay compliant. But no,
It's a good reason.
Oh, yeah. No, I found these Facebook groups and I thought I knew everything. And
we all did.
Then I'd slowed down. I was getting a little frustrated. And I saw, like so many other stories, I met a man on the internet. I met this man and I saw this fellow. His name is Ben McDonald. And he was having a discussion with someone else and he kept on using these ratios. 16:8, 23:1, 2:5. And I had no idea what that was. I'm like, wait, they're talking about something I don't know.
Opportunity to learn something.
Who is this know-it-all guy? And anyway, I began speaking with him and I said, look, this is my situation. I have atrial fibrillation. I have prediabetes. My weight loss is slowed to a crawl. I'm still, at this point, I was still, 285 pounds. What is this all about? And he's like, well, I want you, the first thing is to read this book cover to cover and memorize it. And that book was The Obesity Code. And he's like, I can't tell you exactly what Dr. Fung would tell you, but if I had to guess, he'd say, you need to start fasting frequently and for a long duration as much as you can stand it to begin with.
Right.
So I did.
And how'd you
That's what
feel?
I did. I felt great.
Tell me about your first fast.
I felt great. The first fast, I remember it was paint night with the school. So it was, all the soccer moms got
You need
together.
a lot of energy today, right?
All the soccer moms got together and
Donuts.
they were making we all had to bring food and I brought some stuff and they all had little donuts and cookies and whatever and I brought my veggie tray and cheese. So I brought the things and I had fasted. I had been doing fasts up until the hour 22, 23.
Yeah.
Right.
And that night I knew I was going to be back after my husband was getting ready for bed. He was making dinner for himself. And I thought, why not? I'll do my first overnight fast.
No.
So
Great.
I'm like, and my friends didn't know I was fasting. I would just be like, I already ate dinner and I was having my coffee and my water and it wasn't
Easiest
that
way
bad.
to fast is to fast while you're asleep.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
right.
And try and time it so that 18-hour horror bit is when you're asleep. Is another
Yes.
trick.
Yeah, with me it's hour 20 to 22.
Right.
That's when things get dicey. So I've been doing. I'd fallen very naturally into the skipping breakfast. I was doing a lot of 16/8s.
Right.
Yeah.
And that just sort of happens with a lot of people that eat a ketogenic diet. They just find themselves, they wake up in the morning, they're so busy, they've got all this energy, so they're
And
bustling
full.
around getting stuff done, and it doesn't occur to them until, the afternoon. Oh, yeah, I should probably have lunch.
About 2:00 is when I normally start feeling, I might have something to eat today.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's the first time. And I wake up with a little bit of nausea and I just don't feel like eating because, I'm drawing down. So.
Yeah.
So you did what your first one was 48 hours then?
Yeah, I did the first one, I think. I did 42 hours. And then I decided, you know what, I'm just going to do this all the time. And it sort of became my natural rhythm that every other day I would fast 42 hours. I would eat 8 hours. I'd have my, 2 meals and then fast. Sometimes I'd skip a day, if I had a family event or we were away for a weekend.
Right. Just skipping as many days as you can.
Yeah, I would just skip a day, eat a couple of meals, skip a day, and I would eat big meals.
Yeah, sure.
In between, I can tuck away a whole avocado pretty fast.
Nice.
Yeah, given the right amount of garlic and lime and salt, I could probably do
I haven't
the
tried
same.
garlic. I usually do hot sauce. I do hot
Yeah.
sauce and I put no salt on mine. And salt. I do both.
I make guacamole. I love guacamole, which is just garlic and salt and lime juice.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I
and
just
avocado, of course.
eat the whole thing.
So I'm actually,
Nom, nom.
I've been fasting now since Sunday evening we had dinner.
Yeah.
and I haven't eaten since then, and it's currently Tuesday afternoon.
There you go.
And the three of us are going to go out to dinner with Jason Fung tonight.
Yes.
So I'm going to break my fast with Jason Fung.
At
love it.
a
There you go.
Brazilian steakhouse.
At a Brazilian steakhouse.
How many pieces do you want? A Brazilian.
A Brazilian. Oh, there we go.
And with a bowl of butter.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the fasting
Fasting
came
works.
pretty quick. Yeah, it came, and the weight poured off. I like to tell people, I was slowed down to the month before. I had only lost 5 pounds, and when I started fasting, that first month I lost 20.
Yeah.
And I was eating a lot in between my fasts,
right.
and feeling great, not tired at all.
Yeah.
The other thing that I learned that I thought I knew, but didn't, was this issue that I always had. I would start to lose weight. I would feel terrible, run down. This orthostatic hypotension was
So that's whenever you stand up,
awful.
you pass
I would
out.
stand up and I would, that everything would go dark. I'd be dizzy.
Yeah. Tunnel vision. Yeah.
What
Tunnel vision,
kind of
yeah.
hypertension did you say?
Orthostatic hypotension. Yeah.
Okay.
It means when you change your position, you become hypertensive.
I see.
Yeah, so you lie, if you're lying down or
So-
sitting down, then you stand up and then all of a sudden,
So is that an electrolyte thing?
yeah. See, I didn't know it was because, I've been doing all the right things. I thought, I'm going to eat paleo. I'm going to be healthy. I'm going to cut out the salt. Salt
Right.
is bad for you. Salt makes you retain water. That'll make you puffy.
That's what they say.
You don't want to be puffy.
No. But clearly, I mean, you have low blood pressure anyway.
I have low to normal
You
blood
need
pressure.
to have, you probably need more salt than most people. So
I do.
Yeah.
I do need a lot of salt. And that was the other thing that my buddy Ben yelled at me aside from don't eat was salt.
Yep. As Megan says, salt.
Salt. Salt. Don't
The
eat
salt, stupid.
Yeah, exactly. So those two things just made everything go by so quickly.
Yeah.
I think the first 6 months I lost 80 pounds.
Wow.
nice.
Yeah, so I was feeling great. Somewhere in between, learning about fasting and salt, I was asked if I would volunteer to help run these Facebook groups that I had gotten so much out of. And that is one thing that is a message that I really like to put out there for the people that are in our groups. I think there's now 200,000 of them altogether.
Wow.
Wait. We had problems running a 14,000 member Facebook group.
I'm
How
very
on
good at
earth?
spinning many plates. I've got a
Yeah.
great team.
Seriously.
They're good at spinning plates. They also lock threads.
Oh, yes, we
and
do.
They're a different kind of
We were
group
just
than
like
we were.
playing-
Kindness
We were
is the
too
main
nice.
thing for us.
We were too
Yeah, we're nice. But
We
if
were too
somebody's,
nice. We were
if
too
somebody's
nice.
not being nice, then we will shut that shit down right away.
Well, good. That's what we had to do. We felt like we were playing whack-a-mole with people. Not only with just meanness, which is encouraged, I think, on Facebook, but
No, not with me.
but people can't search, so they don't, right?
Yeah,
So
it's a lot of repeating. Ben and I say it's like yodeling into a mailbox.
Yeah.
We do
Exactly.
that a lot.
Yeah.
We do that a lot. So we do have the webpage now, impulsiveketo.com, that we can put things that are very important
Yeah.
that we can link to. My website's going to be coming out very soon. I have a nice girl who's working on it for me because I tried to do it myself and got very upset. Over again.
Oh, no.
The last time I did anything, I think I learned on a Commodore 64, so no, there's just no way.
TRS-80 here.
So it started writing these groups. When I started, there was 8,000.
Yeah.
Now the larger group has 110.
Nice.
So
Kudos to you.
growing
Yeah, well done.
fast, and I've got a fantastic team of moderators.
Yeah,
They
good.
are
You have
amazing.
about 20 or so moderators?
30, yeah.
30. We
30.
had 20 and we were having trouble with 14,000 people.
These are very devoted people. They have running these large groups down to a science. They know what they're doing.
Good
No.
for you. That's great. The world needs a place to go and have a community. And
Well, what's fantastic is we have a lot of multinational members. There are people that all they've got is a smartphone and no access to decent medicine. They've got so.
But they
diabetic care is expensive.
but they can get salt and butter.
They can get salt and
And
butter.
bacon. Right.
Yes.
Everybody can get
Yes,
that.
they can get salt and butter.
Yeah.
And they can fast. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's quite the blossoming little community.
The story is you've lost all this weight, and what happened with your blood sugar and your I can tell you what happened with your blood sugar, but what happened with your AFib?
The AFib it's asymptomatic now.
Right.
So I still would struggle with it if my electrolytes weren't on point when I was heavier.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I stay hydrated. I know how to take my salt.
Mm-hmm.
And
so it's essentially disappeared.
It's, I mean, I always will have AFib, but it's just asymptomatic. I'm not out of breath. I'm not fatigued all the time. It was really disabling for me. I quit my job because I was so tired and dizzy. Wow. So I just thought, I'm just fat. I just need to lose weight and I'll feel fine.
Right. No,
turns out I was sort of right.
It's no wonder you like avocados, because the potassium is really good for your dizzy spells.
Yeah, no, I'm really big on the potassium, and I use no salt on my stuff too. Right. Just a smidgen, just a little bit. So,
which is that like light salt with the potassium?
With potassium chloride as well.
That's right. It's potassium chloride. So I have that. You know what else is also a good source of potassium is pork. So there's your bacon. So you have a little bacon and a little avocado, and you're set.
Bacon is a superfood.
I'm
really telling people this.
I'll always remember Andrew Weil. You know who he is? He's like the nutrition guru with the big beard and stuff. Looks like a yogi. Yeah. And in the 2000s, when ketogenic and low carb was really hitting a stride again, people were asking him, what's a better diet, low fat or low carb? And he says, well, people on low carb diets tend to keep it off more than those on a low fat diet. He says, but I just can't believe that bacon is good for you. And I just feel, I'd be curious to hear what he says now about bacon.
Too right.
Because, he was of the mind that fat is where all the toxins are stored, right? And so that's where you, when you bring that
vitamins
into
are stored too. Seriously.
Yeah, exactly.
But your body has this wonderful thing called an immune system that takes care of toxins. It's just when we know about them that it bothers us.
Yeah, I think so. You've got a liver. So as long as you're not breaching that toxic load by, only eating Slim Jims, I'm sure you'll be fine.
That's true.
Well, and obviously we all are, and we all eat bacon like it's going out of style. So bacon cured my diabetes.
Yeah. So this thing about hitting a plateau is a common thing I see amongst especially diabetics.
Yeah.
A lot of people in keto.
Yep.
Some people in keto just keep going down to their goal weight and they're fine. And Julie, my partner Julie, was like that.
Yeah.
But some people, especially diabetics, they lose a lot of weight rapidly.
Yep.
They lose 80 to 100 pounds very quickly, a couple of months, and then they hit a plateau.
Yeah.
And part of the reason why they do that is because when they had all that extra weight, their body fat was insulin resistant. It was ignoring the signal saying, hey, because basically body fat's job is when there is insulin is high, its job is to grab all of the energy and store it into storage because we've got food coming in.
Right.
And so what would happen is when we get overweight and when we're diabetic and we become really heavily overweight, our body fat has become insulin resistant. It's refusing the signal. And so the point where we hit the plateau is the point where our body fat becomes healthy and is doing the job that it's supposed to do. But if we're diabetic, we have high insulin. At that point, it's no longer the adipose tissue that's keeping insulin raised. It's your hypothalamus, insulin resistance in your hypothalamus. It's insulin resistance in your liver and in your pancreas and in your muscles and all your other organs that's doing it. So
everywhere.
Exactly. So part of the thing for us has been to encourage people to keep going with keto. It isn't. It doesn't work for 100 pounds and then stop working.
Right.
It's got you to the point where your adipose tissue is doing its job and is healthy. And now the point is to slowly inch your insulin exposure down so that your underlying insulin resistance comes down.
And hence the fasting. And that's
that's
what works.
That's it. In Karen's case, she lost a massive amount of weight after she incrementally added fasting into the picture. And that drops your insulin even lower. So
that's what works for me now.
Yeah.
Is fasting. And
fasting,
I'm not into a regular rhythm yet, but I'd like to be.
I have been. I'm at the lowest weight I've been in 30 years since I was 22.
And you're fasting every Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah, fasting every Monday and Tuesday. I went away to Keto Fest, and prior to that, I'd been doing the Zorn fast with Brenda, sort of once a month. 30 or 40 of us would all fast for a couple of days.
Right.
Okay.
And Julie never did it because she was slim. She didn't need to, and she'd gone from 95 kilos down to 61 kilos.
Yeah.
So she'd lost the same amount of weight as me, but significantly greater percentage for her. And then she started putting on a little bit of weight while I was away at Keto Fest. She decided she'd try fast. She wanted to do it by herself so that I wasn't around in case it didn't work out.
Okay.
Yeah.
You get where I'm coming from here.
Yeah.
So when I got home, Julie announced we're fasting now because I love this.
There we go.
So now we do it every Monday and Tuesday. We fast.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Kelly did it too for the first time, my wife, just a couple of weeks ago. And she went.
Did a really good job, didn't she?
Yeah, she fasted for like 3 or 4 days and then went keto for about 14 or 15 days and then succumbed to the Cheez-Its.
See,
before
my
yesterday.
husband is very dedicated to low carb. Fasting, that is just such a foreign concept to him, but he has tried it. You know, he's done a couple of 1 meal a day.
I should also say that Kelly's not insulin resistant like we are.
No,
In fact, when she was fasting, her ketones went up to 7 something.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And then
Mine
we
got
watched
to
it.
like 0.8 and I'm happy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If
And
I'm
we
at
watched
0.5, I'm
it.
good.
It started coming back down, but we chalked it up to the idea, and we're probably totally wrong, but we chalked it up to the idea that she was just going into ketosis really for that much for the first time. So her muscles and her body isn't used to absorbing ketones. It's not used to processing them. She's not fat adapted.
Yeah.
So that's why there's a lot of excess in the
Yes,
blood. But
okay.
she certainly can make them.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So tell me about Impulsive Keto. You just started that recently, right?
We started that about a year ago.
Okay.
That baby was born out of these conversations that I would have with Ben McDonald when we were working on the science and food groups. We would get on the phone, him in North Carolina and me in Ottawa,
Right.
Ontario, and we used to hand do all the members' macros, which you could do if there were only 3,000 members and you're getting like 20 new people a day.
What?
We're not doing them anymore.
Do you guys have jobs? Or?
We do. Yeah. Ben works. He worked 12-hour days,
It's
but he
amazing.
still loves doing this. This is our passion, right?
So cool, though.
So we would get on the phone and we'd just sit there for 2 hours every night and just crank them out. And fasting wasn't very common in keto groups a year and a half ago.
It's true.
It was still a bit taboo,
Yeah.
but we sort of edged it in there when we would give people their macros. We would put links to intensivedietarymanagement.com.
Yeah, I blame Jason for all the whole fasting thing.
So if it was
his
somebody who was, they were pre-diabetic, they were diabetic, they were, 100 pounds overweight, we just kind of slide that in there. Like these two go together.
You might want to try this and it's,
Yeah, here's a link to this. I would recommend you listen to this YouTube video or whatever it was that we had linked. And here is this website. Go check it out. Maybe read this book. But we were talking, and a lot of times people would say, I'm stalled. And the nice thing about they were asking us through the support group. But I also had the recipe group. So what I could do is I could sneak over there and see what they were eating.
Right.
And a lot of times it was these problematic foods, mug cakes, keto cookies, that kind of stuff.
Even though they're keto treats.
They're keto treats.
But still
it was like an
problematic.
everyday thing for a lot of people, like almost an every meal thing. And they were snacking on keto treats. It wasn't that they were just eating, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It was breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then a couple of keto cookies before bedtime. So, the Starbucks. The Starbucks pink drink, that was on there too.
That's right, yeah. The heavy
it's
cream.
like a cup of whipped cream in there. It looks yummy. I haven't tried it, but it looks
it's pretty good. Yeah.
So
the passion tea, right?
I think
iced
it's
tea.
passion. I don't even know what's in there.
Passion fruit
There's
iced tea.
sugar-free syrup and whipped cream. The
About
heavy
a quarter of a
whipping
cup
cream.
of heavy whipping cream
Or
or
a
something.
whole cup.
Yeah,
Or a whole cup.
it's a whole cup.
Yeah,
It is. Yeah, so I'd see this
That's
and
not
be
a
like,
drink, that's a smoothie.
exactly. So they're eating
meal.
these things, and I'm wondering, well, if they're eating these things and they're saying they're sticking with macros,
Yeah.
what are they missing? So if you're putting all of your macronutrients, and these are just devoted to mug cakes, where's there's not even bacon.
nutrition?
There's
Yeah.
no bacon. There's no avocado if
Right.
you're having mug cakes and
Right.
a cup of whipping cream. So we began discussing, like, there's an easier way for these people if they just cut back on the sweeteners a bit and focus on nutrient density.
Yeah.
Sweeteners are definitely a gateway drug to bad habits.
It
they
can
are.
be, and it can contribute
me,
a lot of
anyway.
people to stalls. That's the first thing that we recommend when somebody says that, hey, I'm stalled. Cut out the sweeteners, cut out the dairy. Just do a moratorium on those.
Yep.
Megan says stevia is pretty much the worst.
Stevia, it just depends. You've got this response, right? A lot of it's mental that
Yep,
you
brain.
just.
It's a cephalic response.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
It's happening in your head.
Yep.
Some people it's stevia, and some people it's
Aspartame.
Aspartame,
and,
yeah.
It all depends. So
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah,
and that's what we learned from just observing is that everybody's different. You really got to test yourself. But that was back then when we did the sweetener show.
yeah,
Now
Yeah.
I'm totally off.
Yeah, you don't have
sweeteners.
sweeteners
I
at
don't
all.
have sweeteners at all, and I don't miss them.
yeah. So I still have sugar-free chewing gum, which has a lot of sweeteners, and
You're
I
a
will
Diet Coke fiend too.
I like Diet Coke.
I like
I'll
Diet
probably
Pepsi. I don't know.
And I have a Soda Stream at home. I don't drink
Yeah.
Diet Coke. I drink
Yeah, those are
Soda Stream.
fantastic. Yeah.
But it
Soda
obviously
Stream
doesn't
Cola.
bother you because you're
I'm losing weight.
You're
So
continuing to lose weight now after a couple of years, and
I do have
it's awesome.
sucralose as well. I use pure sucralose when I cook. If I'm doing like ice creams or something,
Right.
I'll use pure
Yeah, the
sucralose,
liquid.
which is actually it's a heavily concentrated powder.
Oh
It's
yeah.
about-
Okay. I haven't seen that.
it's 300 times sweeter than sugar.
It gets
So
in
if-
the air and you breathe it, and you're
Yeah.
just like,
Well, so, but it's but you can use the tablets. They have
Yeah, I've seen the little
packet,
tablets.
which is not great. but
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
smaller the tablets, the better for those.
Yeah, I've seen the little pellets. You can
Yeah.
get those. So you can keep them in your purse.
So what
yeah,
now?
so we began talking about this, and we're like, what we kind of want to do. We have the general discussion. We have, the general support, general ketogenic recipes and different foods, and where people can ask, is this keto? Is this not keto?
right.
But we want to be able to have people just discuss keto and not be put off by very much strictness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we also wanted to demonstrate what we ourselves do, how we eat, and what we consider to be best practices most of the time.
For us, historically, I mean, back when I started, I was all about the substitutes for the stuff that I was used to.
Oh,
like
yeah.
the bread.
Those can be a good way to get into
And I
it for
think
some
that's
people.
perfectly fine for
Oh,
people
yeah.
starting out, but you just sort of, and as Megan and Jason say too, you wean yourself off those things, but it'll happen naturally.
There are two ways to do it. I mean, you can wean yourself off like you did, or we recommend for a lot of people if they're having a hard time weaning themselves off,
Yeah.
just do the moratorium, and then
Just
they
a
can
fast.
then they can add it in, a month later, 2 months later, just to give them that 6 weeks under their
Yeah.
belts.
How does life feel if I don't eat that? And maybe it's a mental thing, and so breaking
It depends on the
things-
person, and it's
Might
highly
also-
individualized.
It might also be easier for some people to just fast because then they get used to not having anything.
Yes.
And that, is empowering when you say,
Yeah.
oh my God, I just went 3 days without eating and I feel great.
Yeah.
And now you feel like, oh, when I do eat, I could easily omit that. I mean, I didn't eat any food,
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Well, that's the other key to impulsive keto. We call it impulsive keto. I'm pulsing my insulin.
Yeah.
I'm pulsing my nutrition. That's where the impulsive part comes from.
Gotcha.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I'm pulsing it.
Yeah, exactly. So you eat and then you don't.
Yeah.
And then you eat again and then you don't. And now Fung has the focus on fasting, and he says that low carb, high fat is the best way to go about it. It's the more natural way of going about it. He
It's
doesn't
easier
seem-
to fast if you
Oh, so much easier.
Yeah.
So much easier. I would have.
If fat adapted,
Yeah.
fast.
My husband would have been in bad shape if I tried fasting while I was still eating sugar. He would have been in terrible shape because I would have been
He
grumpy.
would have been wearing some kitchen implements.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
In the wrong places.
Exactly. So we have the focus on the fasting and different regimes people can use, whether they want to do alternate day fasting, where they want to do every day just to skip one meal, breakfast or dinner, whether they want to throw in a couple of 1 meal a days, and then we focus on nutrient density. So it's plate composition. What we want to see is a piece of meat that has minimum 30 grams of protein. And you really don't want more than 45, 60 for most people.
So do you care about lean meats versus fatty meats?
Oh,
or-
heck no, I don't.
Because you can always add butter.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we don't have a lot of added fat, so I would prefer if people, they eat to satiety.
Yeah.
So,
that's the key thing with keto, really. Is
the fat to make it taste good, and so you're not hungry, and if somebody's concerned that they're not eating enough, if they feel hungry, then I just say, well, add half an avocado, add an ounce of pecans.
Yep.
And then you're good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we try to keep it as simple as possible without macros, just because a lot of times with the macros, people are like, well, I'm at the end of the day and I have 30 grams of fat left.
Right.
Should I eat a stick
left in the day?
I know. And I'm like, clearly you are not eating the amount of chicken wings I am eating. But, and then they'll ask, should I eat some butter?
Are you hungry?
I'd be like,
that's the question.
Do you want to eat butter?
Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't want to eat just butter.
I kind of think that we are humans, it's very natural for us to want to think that we have to use our brain to outsmart our body. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if we're not doing math, and ratios and calculations, then somehow something's going to go wrong.
Then the whole world order is breaking down.
Yeah, that's right. So it's this dominance of the brain over the body that we've been enjoying for so many years. And now along comes a guy like Fung, and he's like, your body's not stupid.
Yeah.
Just get the poison out of the way and listen to it, and it'll guide you and it'll fix itself.
We actually don't have the data necessary to work out how many calories we should eat during the day. Because the amount of insulin that we are producing will dictate, one, how much fat we're releasing from body fat, and secondly, how much we're allowing into our mitochondria. And we don't know what our insulin levels are. If you're lucky, you might know what your insulin level was 3 months ago when you had your last blood test.
Right.
What your insulin was that day, given all of the criteria that happened on the way to getting your blood test.
And blood sugar is about the best we can do, and that even doesn't tell us much because we don't know how insulin resistant we are.
Right. Exactly. Your insulin could be all over the shop and your blood sugar would be totally
perfectly
level.
Normal.
And that's the problem is that we don't have all of the information necessary to work out how many calories we have access to from body fat.
Right.
So,
So you got to say, am I hungry? No.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't eat.
Done.
And that's exactly what we want to accomplish with this plate composition, that if people are making best food choices, if they are choosing, a nice piece of trout or salmon, a nice fatty piece of trout or salmon that has good fats in it, and then they're choosing just a cup of leafy greens and then a cup of asparagus, then if they have that, they probably won't be hungry.
Right,
it's only when you start the, we call it keto shenanigans, that sometimes you start getting hungry again because you're eating the bars, those whey bars and things with erythritol. Yeah, those things make me so hungry, which is a shame because, they're kind of like a giant Tootsie Roll and I want to eat it, but.
So what's on the horizon for you? What are you working on now?
Well, we're continuing to grow Impulsive Keto.
Is that an open group?
Yeah, it's its own Facebook group. Anyone can join, and then we have impulsiveketo.com.
And you're studying.
And I'm studying.
Yeah. This is very exciting news.
Yeah.
I decided to go back to school and pursue my passion. I heard about that. Pursue my passion for nutrition. So I'm studying to be a registered holistic nutritionist here in Ontario. So my focus will be on helping people heal and support their metabolism and eliminate this metabolic disease through mind, body, and spirit. So focus on all three there. So I'm very excited. I'm done classes this January, and then I have my board exams in April.
Good luck.
Thank you.
That's fantastic. Yeah, good luck to you. All right, one more question before we wrap it up. What was your favorite part of Keto Fest?
Oh, I liked Science Sunday. Something very funny happened that you didn't see. I think I sent Richard pictures of it.
Okay.
I went upstairs to get more of that broccoli rice.
Yeah, broccoli
rice.
It
was really good.
Yeah, it was.
and the chicken tikka masala with it.
Yeah. It was so good.
That was such a great day of eating. We started off with a bacon bar. As much bacon as you can eat. And we had bacon at the end.
Sandwiches.
We couldn't give it all away.
He gave boxes of bacon as a door prize.
And then after the bacon bar, we gave people grilled cheese sandwiches, and these are people who've not eaten bread for years, and then finished it off with chicken tikka masala
over broccoli rice.
with broccoli rice.
So you went.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
So
I
you
went upstairs to
Yeah.
get more broccoli rice, and I saw 2 T-shirts that had the name of a company. It's multi-level marketing company that sells exogenous ketones.
Oh yeah.
And I see them, and I can see them very animatedly talking to a man they have backed up against a wall. And I look, and I realize it's Eric Westman.
Oh no.
So anyway, so I kind of, move on over, and I'm looking at him, and I'm laughing.
I hope you rescued him.
I did. I did. I'm laughing, and he goes, "Do you have anything you want to contribute?" I'm like, "Oh yes, do I ever?" Anyway,
He's too nice to be rude to them. Probably.
yeah. So I basically gave them my story. Like, look at that. There's no reason for this. I mean, like, if this company wants to come up with the scientific data to prove otherwise, but everything that I've seen is to the contrary, that this will actually contribute to insulin resistance. So why would I use this?
Right.
These exogenous ketones.
So as a podcaster, they actually they tried to give that stuff away to us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can we give you some? What flavor would you like? And I'm like, okay, first of all, tell me. I want to see some science. I want to see evidence that this
is exactly
is beneficial
what
for weight loss and for type 2 diabetes, because that's really what I care about.
It is beneficial therapeutically for cancer, for Alzheimer's, for things like that. I get that, but for weight loss and type 2 diabetes, no, it's the opposite.
Yeah, a couple of the moderators help run a group that's keto for neuro, and for neurological disorders, and they do use it for seizure control, and for certain cancers and that sort of thing.
If I had a geriatric elderly relative who had dementia or Alzheimer's, I would certainly consider it, because
mixed with coconut oil,
MCTs, and that I would definitely consider that, because one of the concerns that I have about exogenous ketones is when we make them in our body, we make only right-handed versions of it. When we make them in the lab, we make both the left and the right-handed versions, and we don't know what the left-handed versions do, because all of the enzymes that work in the right-handed version only work on right-handed beta-hydroxybutyrate. And so the left-handed
if you have no idea what he's talking about, you should go back and listen to the ketone
the exogenous ketone show.
Exogenous ketone
but
show.
Essentially, that these things could end up, a caloric amount of these over 20, 30 years in a young person could do damage.
I'm wondering, like, when it comes to amino acids, we only use the L ones.
That's right.
Because the R ones only feed bacteria, right?
So and the sugars are the other way around. So the sugars are all the right-handed ones only.
Okay, so that, ooh. That irritator's not, I'm a little scared.
Yeah. So I mean, the thing is, these left-handed ketones, they could be using up transports that get in the way of other things.
Right.
Yeah.
And we know that, I think they gave 3 micrograms of left-handed beta-hydroxybutyrate to a mouse, and they saw 20% of it come out exhaled in the breath. So they know that some of it was metabolized for energy because it was part of respiration.
Okay.
But what happened to the rest of it? And, and how did it get there? And nobody really knows that.
Right.
So this could, a caloric amount of ketones for decades could cause disease. But if I had an elderly relative, who is geriatric, and it would be much better to put them on something like that, because then they can eat whatever food. It's not going to matter.
Yeah.
But, it's a lot harder to teach a geriatric how to efficiently do a ketogenic diet.
Right.
But they also don't have a 30-year horizon to worry about.
Right.
Whereas a young person in their 30s, potentially they could be, what does 30, 40 years of exposure to that stuff do? We just don't know.
Well, that is a very fascinating story from Keto Fest, and I'm glad you shared that.
I did save him. I did jump in. I sent my piece. I posted some pictures of
Karen Ogilvie, you're my hero.
I sent a picture of him backed against the wall with these 2 T-shirts in front of him. I'm like, ha ha ha, they've got him cornered. And then a picture of me and him standing together, like I saved him.
That's great. He did say he wants to be involved in next year's Keto Fest, of course, and also with the Obesity Code podcast. So you'll hear him on that.
Oh, fantastic! I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Karen, thanks. This has been great geeking out with you for an hour or so.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Heard you say you're due for a little.
Man, we had a good time in Toronto, didn't we?
Yeah, it was fun. Wasn't Karen a blast?
Oh, she's great.
Yeah.
I love hearing these stories of people who just just like Tom Seast. You know,
Right.
she had a heart condition.
Mm-hmm. The same one, actually.
Absolutely.
Mm.
She lost her diabetes, she lost weight, and everything corrected itself. It's
Yeah.
like a miracle, this thing.
And now she's helping other people. She's got a community of 200,000 people
Yeah.
who she's helping every single day.
Just awesome.
Yeah, that's really amazing.
It is. And good on you, Karen.
Yeah.
We'll be keeping tabs on you and keeping up with you, I'm sure.
Mhm.
Are you hungry, buddy?
Yeah.
I could eat.
I could eat.
All right, well, let's bring out some recipes. That was like the monks chanting.
I know.
What is that?
Gregorian recipes.
I know. It's like the Om.
Mm.
All right. You first or me first?
I'll go first. I've
Okay.
got one that also comes from the Ketogenic Forum, and this is from Ren. And Ren gives a recipe for low-carb, vinegar-based barbecue sauce
Ooh.
for pulled pork.
Oh,
Now, you know I like to make a pulled pork regularly.
I'm a firm believer in that.
I'm a firm believer
I'm a
too.
firm believer in that.
So Ren says, here's a sauce that I've been serving with my pulled pork for years. If you are a fan of the North Carolina vinegar-based sauces, you'll love this Virginia sauce.
Yeah.
And this sauce is called the Shark Attack sauce, also known as Tidewater Thin.
Okay.
And so this recipe is a cup and a half of apple cider vinegar,
Nice.
quarter of a cup of water, a quarter of a cup of favorite hot sauce. I use Frank's Red Hot.
Love Frank's Red Hot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Frank's Red Hot and melted butter
Yeah.
on chicken wings. That's buffalo wing sauce.
That's buffalo wing sauce, I know. And the other ingredients are a tablespoon of paprika, a tablespoon of ground black pepper, a tablespoon of kosher salt, and 2 tablespoons of yellow mustard.
Nice.
So you mix this and let it sit for 24 to 48 hours,
Yeah.
or longer if you can. The longer it sits, the better it becomes.
Let it get all happy in there.
Let it get. I reckon put it in a jar, shake it up, and put it in the fridge and just let it sit there for a couple of days.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, the whole recipe has 6 calories and 3 carbs, but the recipe should last you a long while. You really only need a small drizzle of this over some pulled pork to really bring out the flavors of the pork.
Love it.
Yeah, so that's my recipe for the day.
That's awesome. Simple, easy.
What do you got, Carl?
Well, what I have is sort of a mashup.
Okay.
It's easy. You can do it without a whole lot of cooking, and it's really great.
Does it involve any mash?
No. But
Okay.
you could absolutely use mash
Okay.
as a side dish, right?
Okay, lay it on me.
All right. Chicken and biscuits.
Mm-hmm. Chicken and biscuits.
Chicken and biscuits. So, you know, this is a classic Southern, like, you know, biscuits and gravy kind of thing,
Yeah.
but it's chicken with chicken gravy over biscuits.
Well, for the non-Americans, biscuits would be called scones.
Yeah, okay.
Mhm.
That's true.
Okay.
So muffins, scones, they're a savory, kind of puffy, what do you call
Pastry.
them? Like a pastry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So you're going to start with Brenda Zorn's cheddar drop biscuits.
Okay.
And these have been inappropriately attributed to me somehow, but I didn't invent these. These are Brenda Zorn's. And you can get this recipe at biscuits.2keto.com. For those who don't
Nice.
know how to spell that, it's biscuits.2keto, the number 2, keto.com. So you want to make these biscuits according to the recipe and set them aside.
Okay.
Obviously, they're not made with flour.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're made with almond flour and
And cheese.
cheese, and they're
Mhm.
great. And you just make them, set them aside. Okay. So you're going to need a thickener. And I use xanthan gum, which you can get at Amazon.com or any informed grocery or health food store. You can also use konjac powder as a thickener.
Okay. Awesome.
But, you know, I think xanthan gum is great.
Yeah.
And it's easy, and you can just get it for not a lot of money.
Yeah.
So you go to your local grocery store and buy a rotisserie chicken, or a chook, as
chook.
you guys call them.
A chook. Get yourself a chook.
Rotisserie chicken, okay? So
Sure.
they get these things. They're already done. It doesn't matter if it's cold or hot. You don't have to get it hot.
Mm-hmm.
But you can get an entire chicken for $5 or $6. So now you're going to separate the chicken into 2 bowls, one for the meat and one for the skin, bones, and cartilage.
Okay.
And the meat should be pulled into bite-sized chunks. And if there's any dry meat, like, you know, that on the legs or the wings or anything, don't just eat those while you're pulling it.
Or put them in with the bones and
Yeah, put them in with the
Yeah,
bones, or just nosh on them while you're doing this. It's
Mhm.
fine. But so you want tender chunks of chicken.
And make sure you've got all the bones out.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to have
Shane
Barnbrook's problem. Yeah.
No, that'd be bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. So now you take all the skin, bones, cartilage, all that stuff, all the stuff that isn't meat, and boil it down in a pot of water with about 2 liters of water. You throw in an entire bulb of garlic, just crush it up, skin and all.
Yep.
A couple of bay leaves. And you want some herbs, like a few sprigs of thyme, rosemary, and sage. And sometimes these are combined in your grocery store as poultry seasoning.
Right.
But fresh herbs is the key.
Yeah.
Just take the whole thing and chuck it in there. You're going to strain this, so it doesn't matter if you've got...
use the stalks, everything.
Everything.
Mm-hmm.
Now bring this to a boil, and then turn it down on a simmer, like on low, for like 5 hours.
Right.
Now, if you have an Instant Pot, that's great. You can do a couple hours in the Instant Pot. It's fine.
2 hours in the Instant Pot would be the same as 5 hours on the stove, I reckon.
Pressure cooker, whatever you want to call it. But, you can do this on the stove. So now you strain the liquid and add 1/2 cup of heavy cream and about 3 tablespoons of butter to it.
Okay.
And you stir that up until it's all incorporated and remove it from the heat and let it sit off the burner for about 5 minutes. This is important.
Mm-hmm.
Now you take a teaspoon or so of xanthan gum and sprinkle it in while you're whisking it so you don't get any clumps.
Sure.
And you can use your favorite thickener or whatever, but just so that it has the consistency of gravy. Because by now your 2 liters of water have probably reduced down to about a liter.
Reduction. So if you were using an Instant Pot, then you'd have to do it with the top off so that it evaporated off some of the water, I would think.
Right, and an Instant Pot doesn't work with the top off. You have to pressurize it. So if you're in an Instant Pot, you have to reduce it down by half.
Right, so you make the stock in the Instant Pot, and then maybe you put it on the stove.
That's right.
Yeah, to reduce
Well, you strain it and reduce it. Yeah, exactly. So you want to strain it down to about half.
Right.
Okay. So now you whisk in the xanthan gum, your favorite thickener. It has the consistency of gravy. It's not going to be all that thick yet, but when you bring it back to a boil for like 60 seconds, now it's going to start to thicken up. And if it doesn't thicken, you can do it again. You can, take it off the heat for 5 minutes, let it cool down, add a little more xanthan gum, bring it back to the heat, and let it boil up again.
Right.
But when it boils, that's when it starts to thicken. So that's when you can see. So when it's the right consistency, you reduce it to low heat. And now you're going to add salt and pepper to taste. And any other seasonings that you want. If you want some onion powder, whatever it is. But should have plenty of garlic because you're using a lot of garlic.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you've got essentially this gravy.
Right.
So you add the chicken pieces to the gravy on low, and you heat that up to the desired temperature. On a low heat, it's probably only going to take 5 minutes or so for that chicken to warm up. And now you take those biscuits, and you cut them in half, and you spread some butter on them, and maybe 2 or 3 per plate, and you just dollop that gravy with the chicken over it. Man, that's so good.
So it's almost, for a non-American, that gravy is almost like a cream of chicken soup, but it's really reduced down until it's really thick.
Very thick, very rich. And you don't skimp on the salt either. Make it nice and salty. You're going to need salt, as you heard last week. You're going to need more salt than you think. So make it savory, salty, delicious.
Awesome. That sounds like a wonderful recipe.
And that's it. That's what I got. That's a show.
Of course, if you have anything that you want to tell us, something we said wrong, something that you don't agree with, some more research that you found to support or refute anything that we've said, send it by email to dudes@twoketodudes.com or post it on our website.
Right. And you can follow us on Twitter at 2KetoDudes, on Instagram at 2KetoDudes, and make sure to use the hashtag 2KetoDudes.
And of course, if you want to join the free ketogenic forum, it's forum.2keto.com.
And if useless swag is your fancy, like t-shirts, coffee mugs, and other junk with witty keto sayings on them, head over to gear.2keto.com.
And if you want a shot at getting some of that swag for free, join the 2 Keto Dudes fan club. You'll be eligible to win something in every show. Go to fanclub.2keto.com.
And if you feel like supporting our podcasts and our forums, think about making a pledge on our Patreon page at patreon.2keto.com.
Or just hit the donate button on our website at www.2ketodudes.com, or just go to donate.2keto.com.
You can also see our podcast and other videos on YouTube at youtube.2keto.com.
And if you haven't already, go leave us a review on iTunes. That's how new people get to know about what we do.
2 Keto Dudes is brought to you by 2 Keto LLC and produced by Paw Productions, providing audio, video, and podcast production services since 2002. Online at pwop.com. Well, keep calm and keto on, Richard.
Yeah, keep calm and keto on, Carl.
All right, we'll see you next time on 2 Keto Dudes.